Hey everyone, Tim Dang here. I'm coming to you from my dear friend Alexa's house and here in Vancouver, also known as the unceded territories of the Coast Salish, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Super grateful to be able to bring a little bit of calm, perhaps, during this time, and especially with all of us being in our own little quarantines. I think it's super important to incorporate still and follow along with our practices still, and I'm hoping to kind of give that forward to whoever takes the time to watch. And I always mention at the beginning of all my classes that this is your practice, and that I'm just one person making some suggestions on what we can do with our bodies. And nothing should feel forced. And if there's anything that comes up for you that doesn't feel right in your body, know that those are great indications to know that you don't need to push yourself into those forms. So I'm gonna bring a couple of just poses and movements to you that I personally love into like just a chill sequence. So this might be seen as more restorative or yin. So I would love us all to start out maybe just with having yourselves lying down. So something kind of similar to just a shavasana, or if maybe the legs wish to be extended long, you might wish to do so. Or if you like, you can maybe even have your knees bent, maybe the knees come together. And also, if there's any, if it's available to you, you're also welcome to use any type of prop, perhaps, maybe a rolled up blanket, maybe underneath the head to serve as a little bit of a pillow, or even like a blanket or a pillow or a blanket underneath the knees if you like some support underneath the knees as well. You might take the arms by your side, perhaps the palms will turn upwards. Of course, you might be more comfortable with bringing the hands in towards yourself, so finding your center of the chest and your center belly. And then just allow yourself to find a few moments. It might take a couple of moments just to find yourself settling and feeling the support of the earth, support of the ground beneath you. And know that for the time being, it is big enough to support us all, so why not let it? And allow yourself to, just shake out the last little bits of your sillies before allowing yourself to find a moment of stillness. And in that time, you might just invite your body to come into this space, into your practice. As you begin to notice kind of the physical aspects of even just finding this posture, you might notice the ground and all the points of contact that you have with the earth. And slowly begin to allow yourself to soften in all those little tight spots or those areas that might be feeling like they're, tense for good reason during this time. And we'll just, again, allowing the eyes to close if you feel comfortable to do so. And just take a few moments. You can really just get a sense for yourself how long you'd like to take each of these poses. And just bring some attention to your breathing, to your breath. Noticing the areas in which your breath is starting to kind of fill into the belly and chest. Maybe finding space to extend the breath without feeling like you're forcing it. Just allowing it to come and go as it pleases. For some, it might feel nice to inhale through the nose and take a big breath out through the mouth. Maybe with a sigh or a moan. And just such a transition out of this pose. You might just take a few moments to bring small, subtle movements, perhaps in the toes and the fingers. Maybe even a gentle nod to the head from side to side. Maybe releasing any props that might be around you. I always like just taking a deep stretch, reaching the arms overhead, lengthening the legs. Even bringing the knees perhaps in towards chest and gently finding kind of a rocking side to side. You can kind of determine whether or not you'd like to have the knees maybe apart or maybe bringing the knees together. Now you might keep with this position lying down and then placing the feet down to the earth. So for this next one, you might wish to have like a pillow close by if you don't have a bolster. But for this one, I'm going to use a bolster. You might start by just sliding the bolster underneath the knees, just to find it kind of within arm's reach, anyways, depending on what where you're at today. And then from here, I'm just going to press into my feet, lift my hips up. I'm going to just slide that bolster just so it's kind of right behind my hips. So my lower back and hips are being supported by this bolster. And then just resting it down. Now this might be a different height for some folks. So you may wish to also use something a little smaller. You could always use like a rolled up blanket or a block or any other form, even another rolled up yoga mat or something, just to place underneath, just to kind of elevate the hips a little more. So we're giving a little bit of ease to the lower back by having that support, but you shouldn't feel like there's any strain here. And again, we could just allow the arms to either maybe rest by the side, or even, I sometimes like allowing my arms to come out above my head. Now there shouldn't be any pains or discomforts in the shoulders, or if you're feeling any tingling in the arms with the arms extended up, you may wish to kind of just release them maybe a little lower, below the shoulders, below the heart. And then again, just finding your comfort, finding that moment where you can kind of just invite, again, a little bit of stillness and drawing yourself away from, the rattles of the brain, the stinking thinking, the monkey brains, whatever you want to call it. And just allowing yourself to find, again, maybe your pace with your breathing, your breath. Allowing yourself to kind of settle in again. Kind of letting gravity do its thing. Really, we're offering ourselves these moments of tuning in. So, if this pose kind of, if you feel like you've had enough, just slowly transition out of the pose as well and give yourself what's necessary to taking care. So if that means lowering down early or maybe staying a little longer, just listen in, tune in. Just remember to keep breathing. And then from here, you may wish to kind of consider coming out of this pose kind of the same way you went in, so kind of reversing it. So bringing your hands or arms, sliding them down, kind of pressing up enough just to slide that bolster. And you might just roll it back towards the heels of your feet as you lower your spine back down to the earth. From here, you might just take a moment just to kind of rest in the, kind of like the echo or the little vibrations of coming out of this pose. You might just take a moment to kind of gently observe kind of the aftermath. And then of course, if any movements, kind of fill you, you may wish to, just maybe dropping the knees side to side, or again, maybe even inviting the knees in towards the chest, gently rocking, rolling, whatever you feel is, necessary to get back to your body. And then for our next pose, I often like just rolling off to one side to come into a fetal position. You might take a few moments before pressing a hand into the floor and lifting yourself up to a seat. And then from here, so with that prop, so I'm again going to use a bolster, but again, a blanket or a pillow, and even just another rolled up mat, again, could be handy for this next pose. You may wish to even have, it could also be a blanket or a chip foam block. Thank you, Alexa, for having so many props available for us today. So how we're going to come into this one is I'm bringing the short end of the bolster to the base here, and I'm bringing my right hip. So we're going to start on my right side. And what we're going to do here is we're going to actually bring both knees down to the side, and I'm going to use this block actually just to create a little padding between the knees. Now the knees don't have to be stacked perfectly. They can have a little bit of, especially giving some space for the hips. And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna actually begin to slowly turn so the torso and the chest towards the bolster here. And then we might just slowly begin to walk the hands and slowly begin to drape the torso and the chest to be supported by the bolster. Now I like starting just to kind of check things out, maybe with my right cheek on the bolster. And then giving enough space so I'm not keeping myself pressing up with my elbows. So allowing the elbows to maybe kind of just soften a little bit, the shoulders to soften. And then from here, you just kind of, again, just find a moment of stillness, of rest, moment of pause, reflect. Again, always remember to keep breathing. Maybe noticing the lengths and the depth of each breath as you take it in and out. For this one, we're offering a little bit of this kind of twisting action, although it's it's done with a little bit more support. For some of us, if it feels okay on our head or our neck, we could also turn to the opposite cheek. Now for myself, I don't feel quite like doing that, so I'm going to keep looking, but there is that option for yourself, and just keep, again, just checking in. Your body will kind of indicate whether or not you want to take it further or deeper. Don't feel like it's necessary, or it's going to determine how good of a yogi, quote unquote, you are by going into, specific depths, right? Just allowing yourself to really find what works for you today. Right, and then slowly beginning to transition ourselves out of this pose. Right, slowly just begin to bring the hands kind of as if they're coming underneath the shoulders here. And for me, I'm just going to turn my head for a moment. And then begin to press the hands into the ground or into the earth so we can slowly begin to kind of lift ourselves up. Essentially, just going into these and coming out just as slowly as, taking our time in them as well. We don't want to be just raising ourselves up and giving ourselves any kind of head rush. So for me, and just for the sake of being, facing the camera, I'm just gonna bring the bolster onto my left side now. And the same idea here, we're kind of resting on that left hip. I'm gonna have my knees padded once again. And I mean, it's not necessary for everyone, but just to find a little extra comfort and padding for myself, I feel it's nice to have something in between the knees. And then I'm gonna kind of just allow both hands and start to kind of turn my chest towards the bolster once again. And then again, here we go. We're gonna start to lower. And again, maybe beginning with the left cheek. Remember, there is that option again. You can always turn to the opposite cheek, but maybe give yourself a few moments just kind of lining up everything and just check in with yourself to see how it feels for you. This side could be completely different for some of us. And again, just finding a moment to kind of soften into the shoulders, the arms, even the muscles in the face. Notice if you're clenching your teeth, perhaps bringing a little space between your teeth and allowing your jaw to relax. And just again, tune in, breathe out. And just like before, that last side, bringing the hands underneath the shoulders. And I bring my head through the center for a moment just to kind of realign everything, and then slowly again we'll push away the ground, allow ourselves to lift up. And again, take your time. You might even just pause in the center if in a comfortable seat, and comfort looks different on all of us. Cross-legged, it's not always the most comfortable, so you could also use one of the props by and just take a moment just to kind of, again, just check things out. All right, now for our next pose, I do have a chair here for a reason. We're gonna use a chair, and anyone that's watching might have seen a post I just posted a little earlier about these forward folds. So what we're actually gonna do is a forward fold. So there's many options, just for the sake of timing and everything too for everyone. I'm gonna just do a kind of a basic one with my legs crossed. Now there's other options where you could maybe even keep one leg extended. You can slide the chair to wherever feels right for you. And then you would just come into like the halfway point and make sure you're doing the other side as well. I did mention as well with supporting yourself, right? So I'm going to use this blanket, something that some of us might have. So an option could be placing it as a little pillow for yourself to bring yourself down on. I often find myself getting a little strained sometimes in the lower back, so I'm going to actually use it to prop up my hips a little bit. I'm going to come in just to regular cross legs today for this pose and allow myself to just find a little bit of height here, and then we can kind of slide the chair to whatever extent is necessary. And really I'm just going to slowly begin to kind of stack my arms one on top of the other, and then just begin to lower my forehead towards the stacked hands. Again, a pillow might be really nice. Might feel nice to gently close the eyes and just invite a few moments to breathe. So from here, I honestly could have been doing that a lot longer. But from here, for those coming out, you might just lift your head just enough so you can place your hands, and then just slowly begin to elevate yourself again so you're seated. From here, you might take you might allow yourself a moment to extend the legs, maybe give them a little shake out or just a little toggle side to side. Or even just doing those windshield wipers where you take the feet out wide, knees wide, and just allowing some movement back into the body. And then, so really the options there, or other options for our next pose. So I'm trying to think what I need. Oh yeah, I definitely will need a block for one of the variations anyways. Of course, again, I said block, but I meant bolster. Of course, again, this could be replaced with a blanket or something. So one option is we could continue to have the chair close by, come and sit beside it, just from the side, and then bring your hands behind you. And really, we're just gonna lift our legs up towards the back, or the chair seat, and kind of just arrange ourselves so we're comfortable, and then slowly begin to lower yourself down. So this is an option for us here. So it's much like, kind of like legs up the wall, right? So if there is a wall available to you as well, that could be an option. This one just kind of shortens the line by having our knees bent. You could take the option with sliding something underneath. So I'm going to press up and take that bolster underneath the hips. This will elevate a little bit here. So that's kind of one variation. So myself coming out of that, sliding the bolster away first, maybe bringing the knees in. And I'm just going to lift up for a moment just to kind of show you the other variation that we could also do without a chair or a wall available. We can slide the bolster, again, just underneath the knees, so it's kind of within kind of reach, perhaps, lowering myself all the way down. And then from here, lifting up, and much like we were doing with our supported bridge pose, where we lifted the hips up, placing the bolster underneath. And if, again, this could be your pose today if you'd like. But for this one, just being sure that you do feel that support underneath your lower back and hips. You can start to invite the knees to come in towards you, and then just elevate the feet up towards the sky. Now the knees can have a slight bend or a deep bend to them, whatever feels comfortable. It's your version of straight, whatever that looks like. Which might look different from my version of straight. Hardy, har. It's meant to be a joke. And then, yeah, you can let your arms rest, again, wherever it feels comfortable. Some of us might even wish to even offer the arms up to the sky as well. This is just a really great pose to, just to bring everything back and kind of switches our perspective a little bit here by having ourselves kind of in a reverse state of what we're normally doing as humans, walking, sitting, all that stuff. Of course, if it's necessary, and if you feel really tight behind the hamstrings, a deeper bend, or even bringing the hands behind the thighs and just allowing the feet to kind of point up to the ceiling, that may be your option today. And if you were against a wall, there's other kind of options or variations for the legs. You could do them wide, the feet on the wall where the knees are bent, maybe wide. Or even bringing the soles of the feet together, letting the knees open out wide like a butterfly. Or even just a squat. You might just take a few moments in that one. I'm just gonna kind of find yourselves coming out of that whenever you feel comfortable. And again, maybe just bringing the feet to the floor first before, quickly, we don't want to be quickly doing anything here. We can slowly come out and transition out of this pose. So my feet are on the ground first, and then again, lifting the hips, rolling the bolster away. And this kind of gets me set up for our last pose, which looks much like what we did in our beginning or at the beginning of our practice at our Shavasana. You can kind of roll your bolster or your pillow or whatever you have underneath your knees. And then maybe just allow your legs to extend and drape over the prop. Maybe the arms come out to the side again, palms might face up. Or again, maybe on the belly and chest. And then just allowing yourself to again, just maybe use this time or to kind of allow yourself to do a little scan, perhaps noticing differences that you might have, after the practice compared to before. Slowly begin to make your way back. Perhaps bringing small, subtle movements back into the body. Wiggling the toes and rubbing thumb to each one of your fingertips to feel the sensation of your own touch. Some movements might start to broaden a little bit with the ankles and the wrists. Maybe even gently rocking the head. Followed by maybe a deep stretch, reaching the arms overhead. You might even like to bring the knees and give yourself a little hug, drawing the knees in towards the chest. And what might start with a hug might lead with a massage, with a gentle rocking along the spine. Maybe finding enough momentum to roll over to one side, taking a moment in a fetal position. Before using your top arm to kind of lift yourself up to a comfortable seat. Again, like mentioned, comfort looks different on all of us. Allow yourself to take a few moments just to check in, maybe even give yourself some gratitude or even just a thank you or a kind word to yourself. And of course, I thank you for, spending any moments here and following along with this video. It's not professional or anything like that or professionally made, but these times are, kind of bringing us into these other ways of exploring the gifts that we have. So I thank you, and yeah, take care and wash your hands.